everyone. Okay, so it's Monday, so that just means all you've got to do in Guided Read today is just listen to me reading Skunk and Badger. So we are on chapter 5 because we have had 5 weeks of home learning, believe it or not. So halfway through the book after this as well. So chapter 5. Badger found the brownstone quiet on his return from mailing the letter. Skunk must be out, he thought. His stomach roared. He rushed to the kitchen. His left paw found the cereal cupboard, while the right one pulled open the utensil drawer. The cereal box hit the counter. The spoon clattered beside it. The milk landed, chunk, along with a bowl, clunk. Badger stood and ate. His spoon clinked the bowl, slid across the bottom and rose to Badger's mouth. Click, slide, slurp. Clink, slide, slurp. Clink, slide, slurp. Eating ended as cereal eating always did, with Badger holding an empty box. Shake, 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 as cereal dust rained onto a puddle of milk in his bowl. Words surfaced in Badger's mind. Cold cereal in a cold bowl with cold milk. Badger tapped his spoon against the side of the bowl in time with the words. Cold cereal, tap, in a cold bowl, tap, tap, with cold milk, tap. Badger remembered the breakfast Skunk had prepared for him. Breakfast hot chocolate, warm strawberry cinnamon muffins, eggs with roasted pepper. He mumbled. He held the empty cereal box in front of him and read, Fruity-O cereal, fortified with minerals and vitamins. Skunk was right. Minerals and vitamins did not sound tasty. Badger wrote, no more Fruity-O's on the refrigerator grocery list and decided he would go to bed early. On his way to the bedroom, Badger heard a sound coming from the old box room. The door was ajar. Badger pushed the door to peek in and inhaled sharply. In a spot of lamplight, Skunk sat curled in the green beanbag chair with an enormous book opened on his lap. Light from a reading lamp pulled on the book's pages. Across the room, moonlight streamed through the window onto a window seat lined with plump, mismatched pillows. Moon room, thought Badger. Now I'm going to try and show you what you see. So that is the moon room. So that is Skunk in the moon room reading by the lamplight. Skunk rubbed his eyes. Hello, Badger. You're here, Badger said this in not the nicest way. Then he realised he had not even knocked. Skunk did not appear to notice. Yes, I am here. It is long story night. You sound like a poker when you eat cereal. Skunk held up a big book. Have you read this story? It's called Henry V. Henry V is a king with a short last name. I sound like a poker when I eat cereal. Badger tried to look as if this did not bother him, and he stepped closer to read the big book's cover. It read, Henry V by William Shakespeare. He shook his head. No, that isn't a book about rocks. Skunk scooted to the edge of the beanbag chair and sat upright. You should read this. Henry V is about 2 kings who are in a battle. It is an upsetting story, but a good one for long story night, and King Henry says interesting things. For instance, King Henry says the fastest way to win a kingdom is by being kind and gentle instead of using violence and cruelty. Do you think that this is true? I do not know what I think at all. I am not even sure I trust Henry V. He is a king. He has got everybody into a battle. Battles are not gentle and kind. But I would like to know what you think. What do you think, Badger? Skunk waited. Badger muttered. He was not used to this kind of question, especially at night after eating an entire box of cereal. Skunk ran his claw down the page and tapped. He actually says this. When lenity and cruelty play for a kingdom, the gentle gamester is the soonest winner. Does that help? Skunk looked up and waited. Huh, said Badger. He thought about it one way and then another. His thoughts dead-ended, so he backed them out and tried another direction. Maybe, I hope so. Skunk sighed and nodded. Yes, hope seems right to me. Gentle and kind is the way I would like the world to be. I hope it will be that way. But Badger, if it were true that kindness and gentleness were the best ways to win a kingdom or win anything at all, wouldn't everyone do it? Not everyone is gentle and kind. Even I myself find it hard to be kind and gentle. Sometimes I get mad. Also, I am a small animal and being small is difficult. Sometimes I wish I had a grizzly bear arm to swat or an alligator mouth to clack, but instead I am a skunk. He looked at his tail. Even when no one is hurt, you get chased out of town. That does not feel like you are the soonest winner. Badger looked at Skunk's tail with some alarm. You do not use that, willy-nilly. No, of course not. I would only spray in the direst of circumstances. Skunk smiled. Thank you, Badger. It helped to talk. He put his paw in the book and closed it. Did you figure out your troublesome rock? Badger nodded. Tourmaline pegmatite. Oh, is that its name? Yes, said Badger with a chuckle. Well, then tomorrow I'd like to hear the story of tourmaline pegmatite, said Skunk. I have not heard a lot of rock stories. You would? Yes, I would, said Skunk. Rocks are close-lipped, unlike oysters. Rocks do not speak much, except for the rocks in the rock shaker. Those rocks chatter, 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 but it is because of the shaker. Also, I have not learned how to speak rock. Rock tumbler, corrected Badger with a smile on his lips. Tomorrow I will tell you a rock story. Good. Then Skunk opened his big book and began again to read. That night, as Badger got into his pyjamas and slipped into bed, he thought about Skunk and the letter he'd sent to Aunt Lulu. He had to admit that talking to Skunk had been an enjoyable way to end the evening. It would never work out, but Skunk certainly has his moments. Head on the pillow with his eyes shut, Badger replayed the sounds he had made while eating cereal. Clink, slide, slurp. Clink, slide, slurp. Clink, slide, slurp, and laughed. Ha! I do sound like a poker. With a smile on his face, Badger fell asleep. The next morning, Badger awoke to a yell. Onion and mushroom omelettes! Warm rhubarb muffins! Breakfast hot chocolate coming soon! Breakfast hot chocolate, mumbled Badger. He rolled out of bed, stepping free of the covers, and bounded down the stairs. Skunk's second breakfast was as delicious as the first one. Mumbled Badger as he chewed. Badger wrapped his paws around the last rhubarb muffin and offered to do the dishes. Skunk stopped cold. Are you sure? Dirty dishes make you mad. You cook, I clean. Isn't that the deal? Said Badger, ignoring the look Skunk was giving him. Skunk peered up at him. It is a big job to do breakfast. It is fair, but there are a lot of dishes. Skunk gestured at the countertop with an egg-covered whisk. The words teetering, heaped and glop came to mind. Also, Badger noticed that Rocket Potato remained in the Rocket Potato corner. But none of this bothered Badger one whit. The letter had been mailed. What was done was done. Would it hurt him to clean the kitchen a couple more times? Badger shrugged casually. It's only fair. Skunk looked at Badger sideways, blinked, then nodded. Okay, but I will help. It is easier if someone dries. You will? I will. So Badger washed and Skunk dried. They talked about things Skunk liked. Good storybooks, a farmer's market he'd found and spoken in a hush, the Milky Way. They talked about things Badger liked, rocks, minerals, and how agates folded volcano gas bubbles. Lava bubbles, said Skunk with a hop. Not exactly, said Badger. But then Skunk began to pace back and forth. He twiddled spoons, then forks. He flicked the dish towel against the kitchen cabinets. He took a long look at Badger, opened his mouth and closed it again. Finally, he said, Badger? The bowl Badger held slipped from his paw, splashed into the soapy water and clunked. Sludge and slurry, what? Skunk swatted the floor with his towel and said in a burst, Sometimes I get excited and do things. He looked up. Badger, I am sorry about your box room. I should have asked before I stomped on boxes. I did think I was helping, and empty boxes remind me of bubble wrap. I never thought that maybe you liked your boxes puffy. I am sorry. It's okay, said Badger. Skunk crossed his arms. You were mad. I know I am right about that. Badger tried to remember how he felt before he'd sent the letter to Aunt Lulu. He frowned, then remembered. Yes, I was mad, but now I am not mad. Badger smiled and patted Skunk on the back. Skunk beamed. That is good news. Then Skunk pointed a claw at Badger. You said you remembered Aunt Lulu mentioning me, but it did not seem like you expected a skunk. It seemed like I was a shock. Is that true? Badger sagged against the sink with a little smile. I hadn't read Aunt Lulu's letters. You said I did. You did not know I was coming. Badger shook his head. I did not know you were coming. That explains everything, Skunk grinned. You should read Aunt Lulu's letter. I will, believe me. Ha, ha. Skunk picked up a fork and they got back to work cleaning the kitchen. Kitchen cleaned and a successful morning's rock work done. No interruptions, rock identified, finished early. Badger joined Skunk for lunch. You know, said Skunk, poking the air with a pickled asparagus spear, it's quite chickmopolitan here. I have seen a blue-booted bantam, 2 silkies, 3 javas, walking with a coochamoo, and lots of chickens I did not even know. I met chickens from South America, real travellers. You are lucky to live here. The chickens said they did not know you, but you were probably tolerable as a roommate. They are hoping that if I am your roommate, you will turn off the rock shaker. They think I will not like the rock shaker. Badger, the rock shaker is loud. Tumbler, Badger corrected. It is loud, yes. He scraped at his baked potato, making sure to get some olives and sun-dried tomatoes. Then he frowned. The chickens call me tolerable. Skunk chewed his asparagus spear and swallowed. With chickens, tolerable is good. Chickens get a lot of trouble. You will like the chickens, so down to earth. By the way, did you meet a chicken? A Dominica said she startled you. She said you were one of those animals that did not expect chickens to speak. Badger thought back to a grey and white speckled chicken he had seen 2 days ago. Was it really supposed to say bok? Skunk leaned over the table. Would you like to meet the chickens? Yes, said Badger, and he realised he meant it. Skunk clapped his paws. Good, good, good. Now, said Skunk, leaning back with a biscuit in his paw, tell me the story of the Taurine pegmatic rock. Tourmaline pegmatite begins with fire, lava and magma deep inside our earth, Badger began. Fire, lava, magma, repeated Skunk. He leaned his chin on a paw, took a bite of biscuit and listened. Afterwards, Skunk asked Badger to show him on a map, so they cleared the kitchen table and Badger spread out one of his geological survey maps. Side by side, Skunk on a chair, Badger beside the chair, they leaned over the map. Badger told Skunk how he used maps on rock-finding expeditions. Skunk gasped. Rock-finding expedition? What is that? Badger explained how he camped out under the stars, interrupted Skunk. Technically, yes, but with a picnic every day, interrupted Skunk again. I guess I do eat outside. Skunk hopped from one foot to the other. What else? What else? So Badger explained how clues in the landscape led to a particular rock. Skunk slapped his paw on the map. Like X marks the spot. Sort of, yeah. And then Skunk turned away and said, Badger, what are we waiting for? Laughed Badger, because that's exactly how he felt too. That afternoon, Skunk set off to explore North Twist and Badger did the lunch dishes. Badger didn't mind doing the dishes by himself. He'd had a terrific day. Badger even smiled at Rocket Potato, which he left cradled in the Rocket Potato corner. Suddenly, Badger remembered the letter he had sent to Aunt Lulu. He stood frozen in the middle of the kitchen floor and thought. He thought for 1 second, for 2 seconds, for 3 seconds. Finally, Badger snapped himself out of it. Surely it is for the best. How can this living arrangement ever work out? When the kitchen was clean, Badger took the latest copy of Rockham Weekly up to his bedroom. He would see if one of his rock discoveries had made it into print. Several hours later, Badger awoke with his face smashed on top of his weekly. He sat up, folded the newspaper and set it up on his desk. 2 of his rock discoveries had been written up. He planned to clip the articles out and store them in his publication file. Then Badger realised it was quiet, very quiet. He went downstairs to investigate. Skunk was not in the kitchen. Instead, Badger found a note on the table. It read, Badger, I will be back after dinner. Do not go anywhere tonight. There will be a surprise. Skunk, a surprise? Badger read it again. It said surprise. Badger's eyes widened. He read the note a 3rd time. Oh, said Badger, wiping his eyes with the back of a paw. Been a long, long time since someone had prepared a surprise for him. Badger felt a sharp ping. Maybe I shouldn't have written that letter. But there was a surprise coming, so Badger pushed the thoughts aside. A surprise? He could not wait. So we're going to find out what the surprise is next week.